To go fast, swimmers have to create a lot of propulsion with their upper body. Yet even elite swimmers are going to create propulsion in slightly different ways. And these differences aren't necessarily because one swimmer is better than another. How can we account for individual differences? Let's check it out. A coach recently observed that even among elite swimmers, there are visible differences in terms of how they create propulsion with their arms. The coach accurately observed that these differences don't necessarily mean they're errors. The question that was asked is, why do these differences occur and what can we do about it? The laws of physics are the same for everyone. The physical properties of the water are the same for everyone. How the joints work are the same for everyone. As a result, swimmers are going to use very similar strategies to create propulsion in the water. But each swimmer is a little bit different. Their bone lengths are going to be different. The shapes of their joints are going to be different. They have different ranges of motion in all of the joints of the upper body. They have different levels of strength in all of the muscles of the upper body. So they're using slightly different tools to solve the same problem. And that means they're going to use slightly different solutions. Different races also tend to have an impact on the strategy a given swimmer is going to use. Very roughly speaking, a straighter arm under the water is going to allow swimmers to create a little bit more propulsion per stroke. But it comes at the cost of creating more fatigue. And the opposite is true as well. A more bent arm means a little bit less propulsion, but a lot more efficiency. Swimmers are going to naturally gravitate towards the strategy that's more effective for the races that they compete in and matches the demands of the training they typically perform. So different strategies are going to emerge due to individual differences and differences in the races that swimmers swim. How does that affect our coaching? First, we need to understand the commonalities. What helps swimmers create a lot of propulsion? Well, they have to move a lot of water backwards and they have to do so relatively fast. What helps swimmers create a lot of propulsion? Using a big surface area to move a lot of water backward. And if that surface area is maintained for a longer range of motion, swimmers can move more water and create more propulsion. And when that surface area is accelerated backwards, swimmers are able to move more water and do so in less time. All effective swimmers are going to use these basic strategies. Understanding these concepts and what they look like is key. If swimmers are using these basic strategies, individual differences are okay. If they're not, then they're violating the basic principles of what creates speed, and an individual difference becomes an error. They may be swimming differently, but they are not swimming well. Once we understand the commonalities, next we have to accept that we're not going to be able to understand all of the different individual characteristics. Can we be aware that some swimmers are generally more flexible than others? Can we be aware that some swimmers are generally stronger than others? Can we be aware that some swimmers generally have longer limbs than others? Sure, but we can't know the details and we can't know how it all interacts. So while we can know the principles of how swimmers create propulsion, it's very difficult to know the best way for a given swimmer to create propulsion for them. There are simply too many unknowns. So how do we help them improve? We can provide them with the tools to figure out how to best use what they've got to create as much speed as possible by creating as much propulsion as possible. We can use strategies that help swimmers learn the key principles, while allowing them the flexibility to adjust for their own individual differences. For instance, swimming with a closed fist or an upside-down paddle helps swimmers learn how to create more surface area to create more propulsion. Adding a stroke count encourages them to hold that surface area over a longer range of motion. And then adding resistance encourages swimmers to learn to accelerate against that resistance in order to move themselves forward. These are singular examples of how to help swimmers learn the basic principles, and there are many other different options. For instance, when using a closed fist, we're not telling them exactly how to position the arm, but we're showing them that by using the whole arm, they're going to be able to move more water. So these strategies all encourage swimmers to interact with the key principles and find a solution that works best for them. This process is made a lot more effective when using performance goals like speed, stroke rate, or stroke count, because that lets swimmers know what's working and what's not. Swimmers are already using strategies to help them learn, and by performing, they'll be able to figure out what works and what doesn't. Swimmers will swim differently. We have to help them learn to swim better while allowing those individual differences to occur. If you want to learn more about how elite swimmers create propulsion in every stroke, check out the video here.